Go right ahead.
All right, so my name is Gage. I sing lead vocals alongside AJ. There's two lead singers in this band. I also play guitar and piano sometimes. One of the lyricists for the band too, and yeah, I was the one who originally started this project like back in 2013 when I was in college. Was a solo project originally, then I brought AJ on board, and then everybody else fell into what we are today. And then next would be AJ.
So hi, I'm AJ. I'm the other songwriters with Gage. I play guitar and I do vocals.
Hi, I'm DJ. I am the lead guitarist of the band.
I'm Josh. I joined in August right after DJ, because DJ, I think you joined in summer, right?
Yeah, I joined back in August 2019. Yeah.
2019. Okay, so I joined a little bit after DJ, and I play drums, and I am currently working on the mix engineering for our music.
All right. So my name is Josh as well. I play bass, and I was actually the last person of our current lineup to join the band. I joined in October of 19, I think.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there, and eventually maybe backing vocals. So we'll see. But I also play guitar as well. So kind of have my feet in both worlds.
Yeah. It was super funny though, because Joshua Salvietera actually was supposed to be my guitar tech.
Well, I started off as your tech.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
I started off teching and helping the whole band out for like hauling stuff for shows, and then ended up becoming the bass player when.
Yeah, I'll never forget when we had our first gig at the Pig and Whistle, and I had this GT10 Boss pedal back in the day that was just not like the greatest thing ever. And I remember you like being on the stage with me, Josh, and trying to like diagnose the problem. And you were just kind of the tech person for a while, but then we had another bass player that we had to, let go because it wasn't really working out. And then Josh was here to save the day.
For sure.
Worked out.
Yeah.
So you guys started 2019 officially?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
That was after like many years of me trying to do things with like other musicians, and eventually bringing AJ aboard because he was writing these songs that I really liked. And so we started collabing, and people coming and going. And then, yeah, definitely in around August of 2019, once DJ joined, and then both Joshes, that's when things like really got going. When we started to like take it seriously, because I think that was the point where we started to see, yeah, there's actually a future and some kind of potential in this.
Well, Gage, you actually you kind of been all over the place, haven't you? You've done all kinds of stuff.
I have been all over the place. I've been writing my songs in the band for, like I said earlier, since about 2013, my freshman year of college. And the songs have gone through a lot of different changes, but it's pretty much always been called Apparition Coast since the very beginning. That was like the project name that I came up with in the beginning. We almost changed it when the five of us got together. I think the five of us were recently having a conversation about that possibility, but we ended up deciding to keep the name Apparition Coast because we thought it was still like a cool name.
Mm-hmm. What made you decide on, or how'd you come up with that name?
I wanted to come up with a name that I felt captured like the sound and the tone of our music. And I feel like we have sort of two sides to our songwriting. I feel like all of our songs are kind of personal and usually about like mental health and personal struggles in some way, but some of them are like, I think, pretty optimistic. But then like the other side of that coin is that some of our songs are really, really dark. Like our latest single, Drowning, for example, we kind of have those two opposite spectrums, I think. So there was something about the name Apparition Coast that I thought captured that lighter and darker side of our sound. And I also got inspired because I live in Ventura, and at nighttime, the beach gets, or sometimes there was one night in particular, I think the beach got really foggy and it just kind of looked ghostly. And I don't know, the word Apparition Coast just kind of like came to my head, and I was like, that's a cool name.
I have a question. um, were you like looking for new members for your band, or did it just kind of fall into place?
Yeah, I mean, I was looking for new members for a really long time, all the way through my whole entire first couple of years of the music program in college. But yeah, I mean, when I got AJ into the band, he joined around, I want to say 2016 or 2017, maybe. He was, sticking by me for all these years because he happens to be a really close friend of mine in real life too. Like we've been there for each other through like everything. And we just had like a lot of people come and go. And honestly, these guys here are like the first people who have been constant and have really shown like commitment and like staying power in the group. So I think it was a matter of it took a really long time for everything to align properly for this to finally work. So I think it definitely wasn't for a while.
Had to get like the right mix in your fruit salad, dude.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, the right mix in our fruit salad.
Like,
I like that.
I want to actually add on to that. It was kind of weird because so 4 out of the 5 of us all went to the same school, which was Cal State University, Channel Islands. So I went down there in fall of 19. That was my first semester there. And funny enough, I took a class, I want to say DJ and our drummer Josh were both in, and I was brand new to the school, was trying to make friends. And funny enough, I was like, got talking with Josh, found out he's drummer in a band, and then met DJ, who was a guitarist, and they both just joined. And then I was like, I'll just kind of help start teching and helping haul stuff to the gigs and set up and tear down like pretty fast, or as fast as we could. And then eventually when things didn't work out with the original bassist, they asked me to step in. So I feel like from what I know with DJ and Josh joining the band, it's kind of was just like all the pieces just kind of fell into place.
Yeah, I remember we were at Denny's. It was like, I can't remember if DJ was there, but it was for sure AJ and Gage, right?
No, DJ wasn't there.
Oh, he wasn't? Oh, so it was just the 3 of us? Okay.
Wait, which time at Denny's? There were so many.
I'll tell you right now. So there was this time we were at Denny's and we were thinking like, who could play bass? And this had been after Josh had already been teching in the band. And I was like, what about Josh? I was like, it's like this, it's like so obvious, right? Like he plays guitar and stuff. So like he could probably play bass. And I remember you guys were like, I don't know, would you be like down for that? Or is that like the right move? So I remember we hit him up and he was down. And then it was just like, okay, I think we have a plan. Like now we know where we're going. Basically. Yeah,
it was really funny when you guys asked me to join the band because I actually didn't have a bass at the time. So I'm like,
did you know how to play bass when they asked you, or did you?
I mean, my background in music is kind of like longer. I started off on guitar when I was seriously like freshman in high school. And then I did like jazz band and marching band and stuff like that in high school. So I kind of was always around a bunch of other musicians and stuff like that, and kind of learned some things along the way for some really good jazz bass players. So kind of had those little bit of like basic foundations of knowledge of like, okay, what's the purpose of the instrument, the role in the band. It's not a super flashy instrument like guitar by any means, but it definitely has its own job.
Yeah.
So it kind of worked out at the time I was working at Guitar Center. So I was able just to like, I think I'll just get this. And sure enough, that's like the one bass I ended up recording everything with, that all the music that you guys have heard so far.
Yeah, it's funny because I was originally like somewhat skeptical because I knew obviously you had a lot of musical knowledge and everything from you just like being a tech with us, but my dad for my whole entire life has always had these conversations with me about like how, guitar and bass are not the same thing. And of course they're definitely not, but like he was kind of coming from the standpoint of, yeah, just because you can play guitar doesn't mean you can also play bass. And honestly, I think from the moment we first like rehearsed with you, it's probably just because you have, such a musical knowledge and, I would have just never guessed that you weren't a bass player because the technique just seemed so natural, even though you weren't really like playing that much before, right? But you just kind of had the ear for like what worked for our songs.
Yeah, a lot of it, I guess, just kind of had to do with first thing was just, well, let's see. I joined the band, and I want to say it was like, oh, great, you joined the band. Now we got like 2.5 weeks until our first gig. And I'm like, what?
Oh yeah.
Had to learn
That's
like
true.
18 songs or something ridiculous for like we had a gig in Simi Valley that like on a Friday night at like a weird house stream thing.
It was like, it was like a
weird
production.
house.
It was pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie. I was
That
really
was cool,
blown away
yeah.
when we got there. It's like, this is sweet. And then we went down to Long Beach that following Sunday, and we played like 40 minutes or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was kind of a ride. Just the first 3 weeks, I was like just trying to get my bearings and don't screw up on stage.
Oh, yeah, you don't want to do that. I've done that.
So
It's not fun, no.
It's
Not fun.
No, it's very not. You have to be like catch yourself really quick.
Or you play something that you messed up with again, and then you say it's jazzy.
Yes.
You're like, I did that on purpose. Hello.
Played a non-chord tone. It's advanced theory.
You just play the wrong note, and you just play it again like 3 or 4 more times, and you're like, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah. What were you gonna say, Ali?
next, I was gonna go to the next question, which is basically, how is it like working together? Like the highs, the lows. How did it kind of how's the call kind of run?
I think it's been really great. I mean, I feel like we all fit together surprisingly well, way more than anybody else who I've ever had come into the project. I mean, my experience being in this from the very beginning is I had like so many friends, particularly like in my first couple of years of being a music major in college, who just kind of came along and they wouldn't take it seriously. And then I would feel sort of controlling because I feel like I'm like this whole taskmaster. It's got to be this way. It's got to be that way. But with these guys, I feel like it's really collaborative now. Like I don't feel like I'm the one calling the shots and everything. And it's gotten to the point where I feel like, I don't know, I really just feel like it'd be kind of insane to not share like all the songwriting credits. I really just feel like, sure, technically speaking with these songs, they might have come from either me or AJ, who like wrote the lyrics or came up with the general roadmap structure of the song. But everybody in the band has just heard these things and added so many cool new ingredients that have made the songs come a really long way. And I mean, everybody's had like such a crucial part to the development of these tunes that I don't know. It just really feels like we are all the songwriters here. It's really collaborative. And I think, yeah, sometimes we have moments where we might have a disagreement on something. It's always going to happen in a band setting. But I think we're also really good at coming to a compromise and working through it. And just, I don't know, we do occasionally have disagreements, but it's not too bad. We're definitely not like the Smiths or the Beatles or anything where they're just like hounding each other out all the time.
We're not Oasis. We're not fighting.
No, we're not the Gallagher brothers.
That's true. We're not Oasis on the other spectrum.
No, it's like, actually, I want to add on to that. Like, it's really interesting, like the point Gage made where he was saying like we all kind of bring something into this band for like writing new parts for songs. I think a lot of it has to do with just everybody's very different backgrounds in music. Like what I grew up with is completely different from DJ and Josh and AJ and Gage, where I come from a very hard rock metal background. And I know like AJ has a lot of like indie influences and stuff like that. And again, DJ classic rock. So I feel like it's just a combination of all these different styles and things that you normally wouldn't hear in one genre or the other. We all somehow managed to combine them into this weird like fusion thing that and we have our own sound for it. And I think that's a good thing though.
But it's just like everything's just been like combined. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Sean.
That's all right. No, but you got to combine all the sounds, and it sounds like something that's like original and not, oh, I've heard this song on the radio 17 times today. You know?
But it's definitely not that.
Yeah. Don't want that.
But yeah, no, this is a little something else. I don't want to like talk a ton, so if you guys want to jump in, please. But we ended up like just like the big thing with running a band and trying to do everything that we can. It's like you can't just expect one person to do everything. There's just too much, and you'll be just trying to spread yourself way too thin. So like we usually try to divvy out the duties between the different members. So like myself, I usually end up handling a lot of the social media stuff. And then Gage and Josh usually work pretty close together on like coming up with all of the videos and like the thumbnails and everything like that. And then when it comes to, for example, like our merch, that was kind of a collaborative thing between like myself, Josh, and then the rest of the band, kind of asking like, okay, what do we want to do for this, and this? And I feel like that's just been a super easy way to kind of keep things progressively moving.
Does someone have like a good story about like our highest, or like a good high point and like a good low point?
Whiskey for a high.
I was definitely going to say Whiskey
yeah.
a Go-Go for a high. We played there December of 2019. We were opening for Bakersfield-based new metal outfit called Edema. They have their biggest hit was a song called Giving In. I have like some hipster friends up from Oregon who like love that song, so they were like, oh my god, Edema. But no, I mean they were like really cool. They were really cool. But yeah, we opened for them at the Whiskey a Go-Go, and I think the reason it was like a highlight show for us, I mean, it was a cool atmosphere, and it was also one of the last gigs we played before lockdown. But I just think that like the turnout of our fans who came there was really high, and the reception was very warm. And also too, we like not to toot our own horn, but we actually ended up being the only group besides the headliner Edema to get an encore request. And it was kind of funny too, because we came to the venue. I'll never forget, like, you know, Josh Salvatierre was saying, I think we showed up at the wrong gig, because like every band was a metal band. And, you know, then there's like us for this alternative kind of indie hybrid thingy. And they really liked us. Like we were kind of afraid we weren't going to fit in, but they actually asked us to do an encore. And
well,
not to mention, weird. Oh, go ahead.
It was weird because it's not so much the people that came and saw us, they wanted an encore. And the big thing is we're all looking around each other because we know that there was like 5 opening acts.
Yeah.
And then the main
we're like,
act,
can we do this? Like, are we allowed to
yeah,
do
we're
this?
all like looking around and like, wait, can we do an encore? And we're looking up at the sound guy that's up like on the next story above us. And we're just like, and he's like, gives us a thumbs up. And we're like, oh, then we're scrambling to try to figure out what song we're going to play, because we actually had a set list. So we didn't program
like an encore
song for an encore, because we just didn't think that we would even get one. So it kind of turned out well.
Well, also because Edema was about 3 hours late to the gig that day. I remember that was another big kind of elephant in the room that made us think, is this night going to be a disaster? And it wasn't because like they're like, you know, screwy guys or anything. Like they're just kind of,
someone like broke into their car. I remember
something like that.
Funny enough,
a bunch of problems.
So that band is from Bakersfield, and where I'm actually from is about an hour north of Bakersfield. So I was able to actually casually have a conversation with them, I think after our set and before theirs. It was just chit-chatting with a couple of them. They were like, oh, you're from Visalia. That's where I'm from. So just conversations are like, one of our vans hauling some of our stuff got busted into and stolen. And then like one of their tour buses like got like a flat tire. So they were like 2 to 3 hours behind schedule, and we're barely doing sound check when all the other bands, and there's I think 5 or 6 bands before the main act, we're all kind of loading in. We're all standing there like, aren't we supposed to be sound checking like right now? And the main band was still sound checking, but
and it ended up being like an hour late. I remember the end of that set too. I remember hearing the people, and everyone was like happy and like cheering, and I was like, is this real? You know, it's just a real feeling. I remember grabbing the mic and being like, you guys want an encore? Like, we're giving you an encore, you know? All right, let's go.
I feel like the high was just like the encore, and then getting okay to do the encore. I feel like that was like, oh my gosh, this is awesome.
We're like looking around at the sound people. Jake's like, sure, why not? Go for it. We just start playing away, and it's just like, wow, I cannot believe this is happening.
That was the first encore you guys got for performing?
Yeah, I mean, especially for like a big show where we had to sell tickets ahead of time, because we also had to do that for the Autumn Uproar gig in Long Beach, which Josh mentioned earlier. That was one of his first gigs. We had to sell tickets for that, and we definitely did not get an encore that night.
That was kind of a rough gig from what I remember. It was just like
busy.
There was a lot going on. Like I know we were we probably took like almost 10 minutes out of our set because whose setup wasn't working? I don't recall.
AJ with the
Oh,
guitar pedal.
AJ, yeah.
Yeah, he was getting like no signal and everybody else was all set up and ready to go. And we're like doing a line check. So basically everyone just loads on their gear and starts sound checking as everything's kind of plugged in and ready to go. And I think the sound guy had to come back on for what, 5-7 minutes, something like that. And like try to help AJ figure out what was going on with his rig. And
it was a really weird thing too. It's like we hadn't had that issue up until this point. It was the most like random, oh wow, this gear's been possessed by some spirit type thing. It was bizarre.
Yeah, no sound at all.
Just by his spirit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought like overall, I kind of forgot about that, but I thought overall it was a solid show. I thought we played well, and we had like a decent turnout considering it was so far away from where any of us live. But definitely the technical aspects and yeah, we didn't get an encore in that show, but I mean, we've really only
met a
gotten
lot
to
of
do an
people, though.
encore like once. We did
That
meet
is
a
true,
lot of
yeah.
people. Yeah, that was fun. We met
That's
a lot
really-
of
that's like-
fans.
The one thing I miss the most about shows is just going to shows and like, don't get me wrong, I love playing, but I think just like the networking aspect of just meeting newer bands and like
Yeah.
that aren't
Definitely.
like Foo Fighters or Guns N' Roses are like mega big and getting to like chit chat with them and stuff like that. I think that's just, I know that's something I miss.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think we all miss a lot of things, even if it's just not music.
So did COVID cancel any shows or projects for you guys?
Oh yeah.
Yo,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah,
I
definitely.
remember right after our Whiskey Go-Go gig, we got asked to go back and open for another band called Trapped. And because of COVID, they had to push back that date. And we were all like very excited, like, oh, hey, we have to go back to Whiskey Go-Go. And we were just super excited for that. But then sadly, the COVID outbreak, that's when that happened.
And then they just ended up cutting it, and it was just like, oh, no show.
Yeah.
Well, I actually, if I remember correctly, I think that was the second reschedule. I think we were supposed to have another like one that before back in like March or something like that of 2020. Or was
Yeah,
April or
something like
and
that.
then-
We were. I remember the band was called Black Oak, Arkansas, which I don't know personally, but apparently, like, they were a pretty big country rock band back in the 70s. My stepdad's a really big fan, so he was like, "Oh my god, like Black Oak, Arkansas," and I'd like never heard of them before. But that's who we were originally supposed to go back and open for at the Whiskey. We had like a slew actually of a lot of shows that summer. We had one up in San Luis Obispo, and we just had like all these gigs lined up. I felt like we were really starting to gain momentum, and then COVID came, and now we're doing everything remotely. But at least we were able to record a lot of music though before the lockdown, so that's given us some stuff to work on since then.
literally right before the lockdown. I want to say we did what we did in the studio, and then it was like a week later the studio was like shut down.
Pretty much.
Like, everything was in Ventura because our band is based out of Ventura, since that's where the school is based out of. So it's kind of our home base, so to speak, for the band.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were fortunate enough to get in and do what we needed to do right before all of this. So we've been, I mean Josh, the other Josh, has been extremely busy working on mixing everything.
There's just so much music, and I've never done a big like rock album like this before. And there's so many diverse styles and everything. And since we have so much time, I'm like, with the exception of the singles, of course, I've just kind of been like taking my time and really just like experimenting with things lately and finding all kinds of different cool sounds that actually the band hasn't heard a lot of what I've been working on yet. And they haven't even heard. I'm the only one who's heard it. But I'm really excited to show them because there's all kinds of interesting stuff cooking up. That's for sure.
Let's hope we like it.
Have you guys written a song about the lockdown?
Oh, Ale?
Real quick.